How can we add style to our elements conditionally based on stuff that's happening in the data object? Well, we can do this using the vbind directive. So one thing we could do is on this input field, let's say we don't want this message to be longer than 22 characters. And if it is longer than 22 characters, we want to add a class to this input, which will change the styles to make it look like an error has happened. Well, first of all, let's just create a class for that. So down in the style section, I'll just create a class called error. And I'll give it a color of red and a background of pink. While I'm down here, I'm just going to increase the text size on this input and on this button, just so we can see what's going on a bit more clearly. So input and button, give it a font size of 23 pixels. That's a bit better. Right, so let's just see how that error class looks on the input. If I just hard code it in. Okay, so that definitely looks like an error has occurred. So how can we add this class conditionally? Well, we can do this using the vbind directive. So I'm just going to remove this class and add v-bind colon, and then we want to put the HTML attribute that we want to bind to. In this case, it's going to be the class attribute. And then within here, we want to add single curly braces, and then the name of the class that we want to conditionally add. In this case, error. And then we want to add another colon, and then on this side of the colon, we want to specify the condition for adding this error class. And in this case, the condition is that we want the message to be longer than 22 characters. So we can just add message.length is greater than 22. Now I'm just going to stick a div underneath this input and underneath the button to show how many characters we've typed, just so we can see what's going on. So I can do that just by using double curly braces, and then in there I can just put message.length. Okay, so right now it's 22 characters and there's no error. What happens if we add some more characters? Okay, you can see the class is being added and the styles are being added too. If I delete the characters, the extra characters, the error class disappears. Now there is a shorthand way of using v-bind. We can basically just remove the v-bind bit, just leave this semicolon there. Now there's all kinds of different ways that we can use this attribute binding, and we'll cover that in more detail later. There's another way that we can attach style to elements, and that's by binding directly to the style attribute and using a computed property to generate that style. So I'm just going to delete this vbind class directive we've added and add one for the style attribute instead. And we'll bind that to a computed property called error style. And we can create this computed property down here, error style. Now what we want to do is, if the message is longer than 22 characters, then we want to return the error styles. So we can just do if this.message.length is greater than 22, return. Now we could just return the styles as a string, like this, color, red, background, pink. But a neater way that we can do this is just by returning a JavaScript object, like this. So return color, red, background, pink. Okay, let's just see if that's working. So there's no error message at the moment with 22 characters. Let's add some more characters. Yeah, that's working. Except this time, instead of adding a class to this import, if you look at the inspector, it's actually adding the styles to this directly in the style attribute. Now generally it's probably best to use classes rather than directly injecting styles, but there might be certain cases where you need to inject style directly, such as when you need to change the left or right position of an element or something like that.